going back to the life of Sahaba, when Prophet ﷺ passed away, Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu was very much capable, but none of the Sahaba wanted to take a leadership position. They thought it's a responsibility, leadership is a trust, and they didn't want that kind of responsibility. They didn't want to be held accountable, and so they said that leadership, you don't ask for it, you're given. So it's the other way around, and you see nowadays, everybody wants, promote me, select me, choose me. But it was the other way around. They wanted to stay away from the leadership position because they realized the impact of that. And also with the wealth, the same thing. Most of the scholars in the past, they wanted to stay away from a lot of money because same thing happened with money. Same thing happened with wealth. The love of wealth is also very destructive to the spiritual heart. And they distract you from the path. And Prophet ﷺ warned us, actually. He said, one thing I'm worried about my ummah, that they will not do shirk. And he said that. And he said, but the love of money will distract them from their path. And we see that. We see that among ourselves. Imagine when you get a raise, when you have a business, when things are thriving, how many ideas come to your mind, how many plans you make, you'll do this, you'll do that, and you travel, all those things which you want to use and do with the money. So this is also a distraction. So the love of wealth and love of leadership was not very much promoted in our traditional path. But you see these two things in the present era are honored. People live for that and we work hard for that. And this is the thing we have to realize, that these are the blessings of Allah. Money is a requirement. Money, we all need it. No doubt, because the body, human beings are a constitution of body and soul, right? So the body needs money to survive, for nutrition, for shelter, for clothing, to go around and take care of yourself. But it reminded me of a story about how Maulana Rumi mentioned about the wealth and the human being. He said that human being, the wealth is like a water, it's like an ocean, and you are like a boat on the ocean. The boat needs the water to float, to travel upon the ocean. But he said, you don't want this water to come into your boat. Because once it comes in the boat, you can drown. Same thing. We need money, we need wealth, of course. But at the same time, we don't want the love of that wealth entered in our heart. Because the heart is very much it needs to be in the state of purity. And I will discuss a little bit about our spiritual path. Honestly, I have studied the styles of leadership among the traditional model, but once I found the Islamic spirituality, the gems are all present in our faith. And many Western scholars, Western leadership consultants, they will not name it, but they have derived all that data from our faith, like Think and Grow Rich, and all these books about self-help have a lot of characteristics what our being promotes. So having said these two examples, I want to share with you that these are some of the problems we have not dealt with, we have not taught in our schooling, and our current lifestyle also promotes that. So this is how we arrive at this situation. We are ill-equipped, we are not being taught, and we don't have knowledge and skills and abilities to restrain. No matter what happens, most of the time, most people will succumb to this when the time will come, when they are influenced, when they have popularity, and they lose themselves in that. And that's the thing which we have to be careful. So this is some of the little bit of a background I want to say. And when you talk about leadership, if you Google this, you'll find so many features of becoming a leader. So some of the things I want to share here. For example, the list is big, and this is just a small amount. What do you want to see in a leader? I'm sure most of you have come to it. Okay, give me the gist, give me the summary. What are the things I can take away from here? What are the things I need to put in my life, put into my practice, so I become a leader? But this is the journey. You don't become a doctor just by looking and reading the theoretical knowledge, or become a lawyer, or in any other institution. It's a process. It's the process of learning, process of application, and process of hard work. So this is all hard work. All these characteristics of a good I'm going to just mention something, key principle, which has helped me tremendously, because most of the time when it comes to leadership, people think that, oh, my job is to lead others. My job is to inspire others. My job is to develop others. My job is to just, run the company and do this thing which are expected out of me, and then they forget about themselves. But the leadership starts with you. It starts with you. That's why I said, lead yourself first and then lead others. And normally what happens is other way around. They never look between themselves and see what they need to improve, because this is a process of personal improvement. It's a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong process. But they forgot about themselves and they focus upon others, and how lacking human being is who does not improve and who do not learn from himself and trying to teach others. So this is a flawed model. So today, inshallah, we're just going to talk about the knowledge about yourself, what you can learn to improve, knowing yourself, and how do you lead yourself. Some of the key principles, just the basics, inshallah. Inshallah, if life allow us in the future. The second part is very, very important and very intriguing, because that's even more important than knowledge of yourself, is how do you lead others. Once you lead yourself and then you lead others, the picture is entirely different. And it's quite inspiring and quite encouraging. How do you relate with other people? How do you communicate? How do you serve? How do you inspire? How do you develop? This is the whole scheme of things, inshallah, Allah permit, we'll do that in the future. But today, one of the things out of that, you see the list behind that. So only one thing we're going to discuss today out of that, which is lifelong learning. So this is the key which can open up your world, which opens up the horizon for you. If you pay attention to this, if you pay attention towards that, how much you need to learn and how much you need to improve our traditional college education, traditional learning. It tells us, yes, I went to college, I finished my degree, I finished my certification, I'm done with learning. You're never done with learning. One of the scholars said that learning is from cradle to grave. You're always learning. And I'm part of one of the Soba Academy. It's an organization from Turkey. It's all online. Believe me, the students are from teenagers till 70 years of age. They're all learning, and nowadays, alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed us with opportunities of online learning. So we can do this along with our work, along with our education. There are a lot of opportunities, so we should take advantage of that. So what are the keys which can open up the door? So today's outline is lead yourself, which I already spoke. Inshallah, I'll speak some of the stories to inspire you about learning, about the journey of knowledge, and then some of the leadership practices, like the take-home message, what you can do, what you can apply those principles, because knowledge on itself doesn't mean anything if you don't put that into practice. Knowledge is not there to just to share, to show off, to just make you feel that you know it, unless you put that into practice. And then, inshallah, question, and I have selected 3 food for thoughts. So pay attention to those. So I will be, inshallah, sharing during the presentation, and this is for you to think, some kind of reflection or answers, and inshallah, in the question and answer session, we will discuss that. And so then some of the resources. So the first food for thought is how do you shift our focus from me to we. So I thought about these 3 questions, comments, food for thought, whatever you want to say. So inshallah, with this, I start with the next path, which is the main 10-15 minutes. I want to focus on that and say, how we have arrived at this level where we see the flaws and the failures in the leadership model and the personal development, and what are the things, what are the keys which we can learn from the path of knowledge and practice. I added practice for a reason, because the knowledge itself doesn't mean anything if you do not apply, if you not put that into practice. So when Prophet ﷺ came, his mission on this earth was to improve the akhlaq of people, the manners. He came to perfect the character, and he was the best among us who had the perfect character. Because remember, when he came at the time, this was a big problem. He came at the time of Jahiliyyah, when people were very much ignorant. And I'm sad to say, you can relate a lot in our present time, what was going on at that time, that he came at that time, and then he brought the revelation, and he brought the revelation which were designed to bring people out of darkness into the light. And see, now, many times, well-developed countries, people who have a lot of affluent people have a lot of facilities, but there's darkness among them, and they still are barbaric what's going on in the world. You're all aware of that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our people and the Muslim Ummah in Gaza, inshallah. So, refinement of character, and refinement of character means ikhlaq, is the key principle which we need to learn and inculcate among ourselves, and it's the key ingredient in a leader as well. And tazkiyah at the same time. Tazkiyah means purification, and most of the time I'm going to spend a few minutes about spirituality. There's a lot of negative things people think about spirituality, but believe me that one subject of spirituality which has a negative connotation sometimes, but this is the key in our deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not look for our practices. He, of course, we are obligated to perform, but these practices and deen and thing of ibadah is there to improve ourselves, improve our ikhlaq and purify ourselves. Prophet ﷺ came, and his mission was also to purify ourselves. And that's one of the journey we have to take, because Allah will ask us, because the love of the dunya, the love of leadership, and all the ailments of the spirit which we accumulate over the years, we have to cleanse that before we move to the next stage. And Allah will say that whoever will bring the qalbul salim, the sound heart, Allah will look only at the sound heart. And sometimes, once you start this process of of cleansing and learning, and you see the whole new world can open up to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will inspire you with ideas and things you can do, and the knowledge of God, the knowledge of His creation and the Prophet, and the knowledge of His book, and so many things you can do. But we have to remove these obstacles, and we have to remove these veils. So tazkiyah is very, very important at the same time. And so this was the mission of creating human beings, and the mission of Prophet ﷺ, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're all aware of that, alhamdulillah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to create human beings for a purpose, because He made us the best of His creation. And the angels go down to human being, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew His potential. He knew that human beings can reach a highest level, but at the same time, they can be the lowest of the low too. And we've seen that now, right? So we have to inspire ourselves. We have to struggle against those desires, struggle against ourselves, and rise to the potential of ours, which we have hidden in ourselves. So, and the journey of learning, the journey of knowledge, what was the first thing which was inspired the Prophet ﷺ was Iqra, read. So, knowledge is the key. It opens up all the doors for us, so we cannot neglect that. So, it starts with the knowledge of yourself. As I said, this is not Islamic spirituality class, but some of the nafs Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about, we have to work on that. And then the ego, we have to cross those barriers and struggle and cleanse ourselves. And then those ikhlaq, and then those sincerity, and then those beautiful characters will come. The beautiful characters are, imagine a leader who has great ikhlaq, who has sincerity, who has gratefulness, who is generous and kind and compassionate with people. And we've seen the opposite of that. And sometimes we see the good qualities with the leader too. Because this journey will lead us to develop these kind of ikhlaq. And the types of nafs and ego upon our intellect, we're going to share some light. What happens to those people? And Quran and our Sunnah and our tradition explains that. He said, when we worship, when we make ourselves, our desires, our liking, our lifestyle, our priority, it becomes like our ilah, it becomes our God. And we worship those things, and we worship those desires of the ego. And then what happened? The intellect is supposed to be the highest form of creation, which needs to recognize recognize the beauties of the deen, the beauties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His name, and we have to develop those. But what happens when the lower self and the nafs starting to overcome, it deceives, it clouds the intellect. And that's what you see those leaders, those people in those positions, they are deluding. They do not know, they think their way is the right way. And they may be doing wrong, but they don't admit, they don't see it. So that leadership deception is true. So that happens when we don't check these things and don't put this thing into proper perspective. We cannot eliminate that. We have those desires for a purpose. We have the ego for positive, which inspire us and struggle us. But that should not be the aim of the ego, aim of the skill is to make us humble. Imagine instead of the leader becoming arrogant, that the leader becomes humble and be grateful for the blessings which they have, and then come to the public and try to inspire and try to serve from that perspective. That will give that leader, a very high status among people. Then people will really respect you from the heart. They will trust you, and they have loyalty with you. They will be with you for a long time because you're the one who connect with them at a better level. So, just going to mention a little bit of the intellectual awakening, giving two examples here, and see the examples of Malcolm X. He was an African leader. And you see that he spent most of his time, Islam came to Muslim, I think he was in the prison. And at that time in the prison, there were a lot of teachers, a lot of professors used to come and teach, the courses. And he was a very devout student, and he accepted Islam, became Muslim, and then Allah inspired him to study. So when there's an awakening happens of the intellect at different level, different awakening happens. There's an intellectual awakening, there's a spiritual awakening. So when Allah inspires people who struggle, people who persevere and work hard, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired them. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just. He sees your struggle, He sees the sincerity, He sees the effort in you, and then He gives you a gift. And when that intellectual awakening happens to you, that's a gift from Allah. And he used to study for 12, 15 hours straight. He used to memorize the entire dictionary, and he was honored for a speech in Oxford Union in the 60s and 70s, and this is a prestigious award, because he never went to college, he never learned and studied regular academic studies. All of his studies, he was self-taught. And then there's the story of Prophet Moses and the Khidr al-Islam. We know from Surah Al-Kahf that this also tells us the value of knowledge. That Prophet Musa al-Islam, he thought he was the most knowledgeable at his time. And he said, who's more knowledgeable than me? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, no, you're wrong. There's somebody who's more knowledgeable than you. He said, oh, I need to follow that person. So he followed Khidr, and we know the story in Surah Al-Kahf. It tells us that in order for us to acquire knowledge, we need a companionship, we need the humility of not knowing and following people who knows. That's how you become. If you are too much deluded all the time, then the two people never learn, they said. Two people never learn. Who are the two people? The person who has shyness, and that person never come out of themselves. And they never ask questions. And the other person, the person who's arrogant, the arrogant person always thinks he has all the answers. So he never asks any questions. He thinks he knows it all. So these two people never learn. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us not among those people. And nobody is perfect. Don't ever feel that you're not good enough and you'll make mistakes. You'll look fool in front of others. And I used to stutter. I still stutter. I had terrible phobia of speaking in front of others. First time in my 5th grade, they put me on the stage and I could not utter a word. So, alhamdulillah, Allah inspires, Allah helps. He says nobody is perfect. We all on the same board, and all are learning and improving and from each other. Everybody's at different level. So be encouraging, being people who inspire and help others and bring them to your level, inshallah. So these two stories I thought would be beneficial to know for yourself and the knowledge of the self. So the second food for thought. People remember the first food for thought? I'll take a break and see who remembers that. Remember from B to B? So these are the things for you to remember and just food for thought. And we will discuss that. Whatever ideas come to your mind, There's no perfect answer. I don't have the answer, but all I know that me is the world which kind of like we live in, and we is quite opposite to us. We don't think about others. So how do we have a leader cross that barrier from me to we? So the second thing is I was talking about knowledge and see how does knowledge connect to a higher purpose, and think about some examples. Like there are two kinds of knowledge: the beneficial knowledge and the sacred knowledge. I was surprised actually. I'm taking the Soba Academy, and the whole seminar was about the knowledge. And the speaker was telling me, and I was like, he said, every knowledge should connect you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every beneficial knowledge which we have is supposed to connect you with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And imagine in your profession, the knowledge of medicine, how body is built, knowledge of agriculture, food industry, knowledge of economy, knowledge of law, engineering, all these things. We take these things for granted and we just say, okay, I need to work, I need to go home, I need to get a paycheck and pay bills, this and that. We just never pay attention. But every knowledge should help us to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then this becomes not this knowledge which you're acquiring, it becomes eternal. Because then that knowledge, with sincerity, with effort, it's rewarding. Of course, you have good intention to make a living, to help and support your family. But at the same time, this knowledge which you're acquiring and helping and serving will help you to, in the hereafter, who knows how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to benefit you and reward you, and He is the most generous one. And the sacred knowledge, the problem with the sacred knowledge is that many, many years ago, this was put on the back seat. And we were told, learning about Islam, learning about Islamic studies, because everything about capitalism, it does not make you rich, or you won't be popular, you won't have status, people will not respect you. So many intellectual, many hardworking, good students went into reading, medical, law, computer, and who goes to Islamic studies? The people who cannot get into it. So we put the knowledge, Islamic studies, and sacred sciences in the back seat, and we never valued them. But imagine that these are sacred sciences. Believe me, this knowledge is eternal. The knowledge of this world, the medicine knowledge, will help me till I die. It's about knowledge of the body. But the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowledge of prophets, and the knowledge of our deen is eternal. Its rewards never finish. It's perpetually increase and help you. Imagine you have a boast type nowadays, how lucky we are that we are able, if we have that desire, if we are inspired enough, if Allah gives us strength, then we say, I have to seek knowledge. Today I was talking to my wife and I said, Prophet said, Urdu ka word hai, ilm hasil karne ke liye Cheen bhi chale jao. This is hadith, right? In order to seek knowledge, even if you have to go to China, you should go. And in the past, people used to travel long distance to find one of these. They know somebody who's pious that they can learn from. This was their path. Because the path of knowledge is tough. So people used to struggle in that. And then he said, nowadays, people, in order to find good food, we travel far. It's the opposite. And the knowledge is in the house, and nobody comes, right? So look at our priority and see how things have turned, and we are the one who are given opportunities. Who knows? I've come to this country maybe after 10 years, and who knows how long we'll live and lifestyle and think when the time will come and we'll reach it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So take advantage of that time. Surah Asr, we remember, time is limited. And who is at loss? Everybody is at loss except 4 people. You know the answer. So what's putting us back? It's our own self, negligence, carelessness, shaitan, the love of dunya, all these things which we discussed, we all know. So we have to supersede those desires and come to the reality and seek knowledge while we are alive, while we have health, while we have time. Imagine that time and health are two precious gifts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not going to be with you all the time. Time is running out. So I thought I want to mention these two things, and how do you connect with these two things. So now, inshallah, at the end, I'm going to just have mentioned some take-home messages. And as I said, the knowledge is not only just for the sake of knowledge, it is there to put that knowledge into practice. So this is something that I mentioned, that make learning intentional. Learning will not happen. Knowledge will not come in the plate and ask you to take me and ingest me. No, we have to work for it. So you have to make an intentional planning and strategy to seek knowledge, seek information, talk to the imams, talk and see what's going on around this. It's so nice to see such a growing Muslim community. So it tells us it's an opportunity for the knowledge to come in this masjid. The knowledge thing has to happen in this masjid. Masjid community, masjid board, and all of us should be inspiring and encouraging and looking for opportunities to bring knowledge from outside, to bring scholars from outside, and inspire our children. So because this is our future. So we have to make this learning and think intentional. So I just want to give you an example from intention. I remember I said to Brother Mumtaz, how and when did we make that decision? He said that was at the time of the wedding. We came Khaba's daughter. So me and Mumtaz started to talk, and so that happened, right? So it was intentional. Little bit of a strategy and organization was involved. If I was like, okay, usual thing we do, right? It would not have happened. So in order for things to happen, you have to plan. You have to strategize. These are the means Allah tells us that I give you intellect to reason and intellect to make plan. This is upon us. So knowledge, intentional, and strategy you have to develop. And the second thing is the regular diet of beneficial knowledge. Here I have to mention one thing. That, I was talking about ego all the time. The ego is not involved only in the leadership position. It plays a part with all of us all the time. And sometimes you feel that, I attended a seminar, I attended a conference, and you inspire to attend more and take more lectures and everything, but it's only for the weekend, and then you forget about it. But so that's like an ego boost. Actually, the science has proven that, philosophy and phenomena too. It's very much intriguing that how social media is designed to trick us, because they've studied human beings and seen what happens to individuals who are addicted to technology, and they felt that the dopamine, you must have heard about that the chemical is released in our body, and it makes you feel high, and it makes you come and do more of those things. And then it comes down and the feeling goes away. Same thing, anything you want to do exciting, it's exciting things happen, and sometimes you want to find it, you want to learn a lot at one time, then you forget. But the opposite of that is boring. Little bit of a knowledge every day, an hour in the morning, recitation of Quran, tafsir of Quran, do a little bit of zikr, make sure you praise regular salah, make sure you learn a little bit of a beneficial knowledge, and learn about your fardain, essentials, and progress slowly. An hour a day, or whatever time you have, being a mother at home or traveling, just spare that time. A regular diet of knowledge will help you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loves the consistency of effort. Consistent small ibadah is better than doing a lot of ibadah at one time. So it's true with the same thing with the knowledge. And the other thing is, I learned what is the reason to seek knowledge. I learned to practice. I don't learn just for the sake of learning. What does that knowledge mean if that knowledge is not put into practice? And ilm and amal, if you see, ain, mi, lam, mi, and ain, mi, lam, they're connected. These two words are joined. So ilm and amal, which means knowledge and practice, are together. So we cannot separate practice from ilm. And why do I learn? I don't learn to brag about myself and tell people how much I know, or if I want to give talks and lectures. Yes, if a time comes that Allah inspires you and people benefit from you, that's fine. But the main reason for us to learn things is to transform myself. It's not for others. And that's the leaders, they make a mistake. They say, I learned to educate. I learned to change others. And we're so much prompt these days to do, we think these are acts of goodness, which is good. But at the same time, you have to see your caliber too. I forgot actually, I wanted to express at the beginning that I really don't consider myself an expert in that field. Over the years, I come alhamdulillah, learned a little bit and trying to share my thoughts with you. And I'm encouraged and happy to hear from you too. So none of us are scholars, or we're just on the path, and everybody's at different path. We can all learn from each other. So I learned to transform myself. That's my aim, that's my mission, that to change my character and change my akhlaq. Imagine when my akhlaq is changed, imagine how beautiful mother or father I'll become, or an employer or employee, or a brother and sister, a person at work I become if my akhlaq gets better. And that's like an open dawah. You don't have to tell anything. It's, that person is so nice, he's always punctual, he never cheats, he never curses, he never backbites. So these are the examples of good akhlaq. So these things will come if we work hard on ourselves, if we know the reason. That's where the purity of the heart comes into play. This comes after the struggle of controlling amount of eating, amount of speaking, amount of sleeping. All these things we have to watch, because being excessive in any of these is very easy. But in order to monitor, to transform, to watch yourself is hard. So that's the process we have to go. That I learned to transform myself and my inner heart. And then you see that this is the last slide. That hence the birth of God's ambassador on earth, a true leader. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, remember at the beginning, that I'm creating somebody, I'm creating my Khalifa, I'm creating my ambassador, my representative. Who are the representatives? The should represent somebody. Represent the characteristics of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has beautiful names. So these are the akhlaq I was talking. That once I develop, once I form, then I develop those akhlaq, then I become the true ambassador. And that's the reason for human being to be on this earth. That's the purpose. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose human being to be the best. And He said, you're the best of creation, who struggle and become a true person, who's a true representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And sometimes an idea came to my mind, because see, the prophets, the scholars are the inheritors of the prophet, and the ambassadors are the representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to develop, we have to inculcate, and we have to see and cultivate those characteristics among themselves. So we become the ambassadors. We become the true leaders. Imagine that person, like who, if you see the life, how I imagine to be the inheritor, or to be the ambassador, or imagine how the prophets, what does the prophet think, and what's his life like? He's connected with God, he's connected with himself, and he's connected with others. So these three connections we all have all the time at our disposal. So we have to see, connecting to yourself being learning about your mistakes, learning about your fault, improving yourself, incremental amount of knowledge, all these things which I mentioned, and then make your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the establishment of your relationship, our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is helping us on this earth. Because all the world thing which we learn and have and everything we all know is not going to make us happy or tranquil or put us at peace. The only thing which bring us peace is the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we do His acts of service and we develop the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His prophets and His books, inshallah. So that's the true ambassador, that's the true feature of a Khalifa on earth. So I thought I'd make that connection here. So this is the last food for thought. Mentioned here, so that as I said, incremental progress. So the ego wants to do a lot at one time and then forget the rest of the week. Only one day I feel inspired to do a lot of good work in learning and then forget. But make at least every day a little bit better than the last day. So these are the things I mentioned, that at the end, in the summary I said, the leadership is vast, the subject is huge. So I cannot cover everything, but some of the key things I mentioned about love of learning, love of knowledge, and the path of knowledge, and the practice of knowledge, and the learning about our deen, learning about Islamic spirituality, learning the good traditional models of leadership which is around us in the West too, and they are very, very good. So, and the thing is, and then we incorporate these things in our life. Imagine the people who become a true leader. The leaders are not only a person who have authority, have position. Leadership is a way of life. Everybody has an influence. Everybody has responsibilities. And at times, it's time for us to work on ourselves and lead ourselves first. And then we are able to lead others, inshallah. So at the last thing I want to mention about Islamic law. was just with somebody yesterday. He's like an expert on Islamic law, with a poet in Pakistan. And his journey actually is very intriguing. And his poetry, anybody knows poetry, somebody is fond of Islamic law, or can share some of the Munawar Bhai's here. So if you see, a lot of his poetry came because Islamic was studied in the West. He studied in Germany, he studied in UK, and he was a philosopher. And Allah inspired him to write good poetry. But at the end of his life, he realized he had the pain for Muslim Ummah. He knew the Muslim Ummah is going downhill. And he inspired Muslim Ummah with his poems. And he motivated them. And he reminded them, he said, remember who you were, remember the success you had, your inheritors, your forefathers had, what happened to you, you're following the West. At that time, he imagined that. He said, Muslims will follow, Muslims will be inspired by the love of dunya and follow what West has to offer. And he wrote a lot of his poetry based on that. So one share of the poetry of his poem I will mention here, and I will conclude with that, inshallah, is Sitaron se aage jahan aur bhi hai.